Greetings and salutations. Today we will be covering the strange illness known as Havana Syndrome. In the murky waters of international intrigue and governmental secrets, a baffling phenomenon would emerge, leading a trail of perplexed officials and bewildered victims in its wake. Dubbed the Havana Syndrome, this enigmatic cluster of symptoms perplexed medical experts and intelligence agencies alike. It all began in 2016 within the confines of the US and Canadian embassies. Nestled in Havana, Cuba, diplomats and embassy staff reported experiencing a range of inexplicable symptoms, from debilitating pain to persistent ringing in their ears, and even a cognitive impairment which seemed to spread. Initially dismissed as isolated incidents, the phenomena would soon begin to spread its tendrils to other corners of the globe. By 2017, reports surfaced from diverse locales spanning from China to India, and even into both Europe and Washington, D.C. The afflicted were not limited to embassy personnel. U.S. intelligence operatives and military personnel, along with their families, also found themselves ensnared in the perplexing web of maladies. Termed anomalous health incidents by federal authorities, the saga took an even more sinister tone as the numbers of purported cases surged into the thousands. As the public clamored for answers, theories were thrown left and right. Some government representatives pointed the finger at shadowy adversaries, attributing the incidents to clandestine attacks by foreign actors. Allegations swirled regarding the employment of undisclosed technologies, ranging from ultrasound to microwave weapons, as potential culprits behind the affliction. Yet amidst the cacophony of speculation, no concrete evidence emerged to substantiate these claims. The narrative would then take a further twist as insinuations implicating the Russian military intelligence agencies came about. Despite the absence of any proof, suspicions would linger, shrouding the investigation in a veil of uncertainty. Paralleling these geopolitical maneuverings, scientists proposed an alternative explanation: mass psychological illnesses, proposing that a collective hysteria might be the elusive key to unraveling this mystery. In January 2022, the Central Intelligence Agency stepped into the fray, issuing an interim assessment that dispelled the notions of a coordinated assault orchestrated by a hostile power. Yet the specter of a foreign involvement persisted, casting a long shadow over the investigation. The tide turned once more in February 2022, as a panel of experts convened by the Biden administration offered up a tantalizing hypothesis. Radio waves, rather than psychological factors, could be responsible for some of the reported injuries and ailments. Concurrently, the State Department sought out answers, enlisting the Jason Advisory Group to probe the enigma. Their findings, released in February 2022, cast doubt on the notion of a directed energy attack being the cause. Amidst the labyrinth of conjecture, the consensus amongst 7 U.S. intelligence agencies articulated in the March 2023 report pointed away from the involvement of adversarial powers, with foreign culpability deemed very unlikely, as the investigation plunged even deeper into uncertainty. Despite the prevailing skepticism, Pentagon-funded experiments would persist as researchers endeavored to replicate Havana Syndrome in animals through prolonged exposure to RF waves. As the shadows lengthened and their questions multiplied, the enigma of the Havana Syndrome remains a tantalizingly unsolved riddle, wrapped in a mystery and concealed within the corridors of state power. As time went on and the investigation delved deeper into the labyrinth of the Havana Syndrome mystery, a new layer would emerge, primarily in the realm of media scrutiny and criticism. It appears that as the media fanned the flames of rather outlandish and sensational narratives which were posited and propagated by both journalists and politicians alike, skeptics would question their stances, casting doubt upon the narrative. Eventually, Robert Bartholomew, a distinguished medical sociologist specializing in mass psychogenic illnesses, stepped into the fray with a scathing rebuke of the media's portrayal of Havana Syndrome. dismissing the notion of a smoking gun, linking the affliction to foreign powers or advanced technologies. Bartholomew decried the haze of misinformation perpetuated by shoddy science and sensationalist journalism. His words acted as a beacon of reason in what seemed to be developing into a tempest of uncertainty, challenging the very foundations of the current media narrative. There was also Natalie Scher, a voice of reason amidst the tumult, who highlighted the glaring discrepancy in the coverage, in specific the absence of input from health experts. In an interview with NPR, she underscored the dubious credibility of a story championed primarily by national security reporters, rather than those well-versed in the intricacies of public health. Her words reasoned with the gravity of a solemn warning, urging the re-evaluation of the sources driving the discourse surrounding Havana Syndrome in the public sphere. Psychologist Stuart Weiss added his own voice to the chorus of dissent against the perils of sensationalized media coverage amongst embassy workers. Weiss warned the potential obstacles to recovery posed by entrenched beliefs in permanent impairment. Acceptance of the psychogenic interpretation he believed could pave a way for healing and recovery of those afflicted, shattering the shackles of fear and uncertainty within them. As the investigation unfolded, further critiques of media coverage emerged as a vital thread in the tapestry of the Havana Syndrome enigma, a testament to the complexities of this perplexing phenomena. To go into further detail, the tally of affected citizens by June 2018 was 26 Americans, their lives irrevocably altered by a specter that seemed to defy explanation. And as evidence was laid out, witnesses would describe a particular grating noise or series of noises emitting from specific directions, leading to the theory of RF wave being the culprit. These sounds were accompanied by sensations akin to pressure or vibration, who many described as being similar to driving with a partially rolled down window. For some of the American diplomats, it seemed the toll had lasted much longer than for others. Records show that some would end up requiring a hearing aid. Yet despite all this, during the initial instances, the State Department remained reticent, refraining from assigning blame to the Cuban government. However, in a retaliatory gambit meant more to appease some than to actively solve the issue, the United States government expelled 2 Cuban diplomats in August 2017, signaling the escalation in tensions. The subsequent withdrawal of non-essential staff from the U.S. Embassy and the issuance of travel advisories for U.S. citizens would underscore the gravity of the situation. However, across the northern border, Canadian diplomats found themselves ensnared in the same uncertainty, their lives irrevocably altered by the strange and shadowy symptoms of Havana Syndrome. In a chilling parallel to their American counterparts, MRI scans revealed evidence of brain damage amongst Canadian diplomats, mirroring the afflictions suffered by their transnational colleagues. As the specter of uncertainty seemed to loom large, the Canadian government grappled with the fallout, reducing its embassy staff and facing legal challenges from afflicted diplomats seeking redress for their suffering. Amidst the tumult, the government vehemently denied culpability, dismissing allegations of involvement as baseless fabrications designed to tarnish their reputation. Despite offers of cooperation and exhaustive investigations, the specter of doubt would persist, casting a long shadow over any bilateral relations with the countries of the afflicted personnel, fueling further accusations of misinformation. In the labyrinth of international diplomatic maneuvering, Havana Syndrome has remained an unsolved enigma and a current point of contention. As the investigation pressed forward, it would remain obscured in a fog of uncertainty. As time would go on, some would see a perplexing pattern emerge, leaving a trail of uncertainty and apprehension in its wake. From the halls of Moscow to the streets of Taipei, reports of suspected attacks of a similar nature targeting U.S. intelligence personnel rippled across the globe like wildfire. In the corridors of power, intrigue would swell as government officials grappled with the elusive truth behind the Havana Syndrome phenomena. Yet the true extent of the affliction remained shrouded in ambiguity, obscured by a veil of both secrecy and misinformation. Despite media reports suggesting a tally of possible cases, ranging anywhere from 130 individuals to over 200. By mid-September 2021, the precise number of afflicted individuals would remain a closely guarded secret, only truly known and verified by a select few within the higher echelons of power. As the investigations expanded their purview, new battlegrounds emerged in the diplomatic arenas relating to Havana Syndrome. In the bustling metropolis of Guangzhou, China, American diplomats found themselves ensnared in a web of uncertainty, as reports of symptoms consistent with Havana Syndrome would send shockwaves throughout the diplomatic community. Yet amidst the clamor over answers, new theories were abound, ranging from toxins to the side effects of listening devices, leaving investigators grasping at straws. Elsewhere in Asia, tendrils of uncertainty extended their reach further still. Reports surfaced of incidents in Hanoi, Vietnam, and on a diplomatic visit to India further complicated an already convoluted narrative. In Vienna, dozens of US personnel found themselves afflicted by symptoms akin to Havana Syndrome, sparking fears of a coordinated attack. Investigators would race against time to unravel the mystery as tensions simmered and speculation mounted, leaving diplomats and intelligence officials alike grappling with a sinister specter which could potentially lead to outright conflict. A pivotal juncture would be reached on December 2020. In specific, a study by an expert committee of the US National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Mathematics, commissioned by the State Department, would be released. This landmark report cast a penetrating gaze into the heart of the mystery, offering tantalizing clues while leaving a cloak of ever-present ambiguity hanging by threads. Led by the esteemed Dr. David Relman, the committee embarked on a journey guided by Linda Brindbaum, Ronald Brookmeyer, and Caroline Buckey, amongst others. At the heart of their inquiry lay the tantalizing revelation, in particular about directed pulsed RF energy, emerging as the most plausible mechanism to explain the cases under scrutiny. Yet amidst the whispers, there was also microwave radiation. The committee would remain steadfast in their conclusion, acknowledging the speculative nature of their conclusions. Dr. Relman himself admitted the elusiveness of certainty, lamenting the dearth of direct evidence, which could potentially help to substantiate their theories. The committee would also grapple with the specter of psychological and social factors, potentially having a hand in the case, all the while dismissing the notion of acute high levels of exposure to parasitides or infectious diseases as being unlikely culprits. However, even with their conclusions, their findings would remain haunted by the shadow of a mass psychogenic illness similar to a mass hallucination or the dancing plague of 1518. As the investigation pressed forward, one thing remained clear. The mystery of Havana Syndrome persisted, undeterred by the findings and efforts of investigators, and in essence, shrugging off any rational inquiry. However, the legislative response to this shadowy phenomena came in the form of Senator Susan Collins' Bill 1828, which formed a bipartisan coalition which sought to close a glaring loophole in the Federal Employees Compensation Act, ensuring that the victims afflicted with neurological attacks would receive the support they so desperately needed. Eventually, the Helping American Victims Afflicted by Neurological Attacks Act would move on and provide crucial financial assistance to personnel grappling with brain injuries, and this bill would pass with overwhelming support and earn the signature of President Joe Biden on October 8, 2021, passing it into public law number 117-46. Yet even as the ink dried, the specter of Havana Syndrome loomed large. While the Havana Act paved the way for much-needed aid, the mystery of Havana Syndrome was not yet solved, meaning that as time would go on, this issue would continue to rear its head. Eventually, reports would surface of the US Army funding a study at Wayne State University subjecting ferrets to the embrace of RF waves. This was described as an attempt to mimic the mild head injuries reported by embassy personnel. However, this experiment would draw condemnation from animal rights groups, sparking further calls for the end of live animal testing related to Havana Syndrome. In the tangled tapestry of Havana Syndrome, where mysterious maladies and shadowy assailants intertwine, the quest for clarity has been a labyrinthian odyssey from the hallowed halls of Congress to the clandestine corridors of covert experimentation. The journey has been fraught with enigmatic twists and turns. Yet amidst the cacophony of conjecture and controversy, one thing remains abundantly clear: the resolve of investigators to unravel this riddle and bring solace to those ensnared by its perplexing web. As the curtain falls on this captivating chronicle, we are left with a tantalizing tableau of uncertainty, unanswered questions, and tantalizing clues. From the corridors of power to the halls of academia, the pursuit of truth marches onwards, still unabated, fueled by a relentless determination to pierce the veil of secrecy and illuminate the murky depths of Havana Syndrome. In this intricate mosaic of intrigue, what is certain is that while this journey may be fraught with peril for investigators, that the quest for answers will endure, driven by an insatiable hunger for resolution in the face of the unknown. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.